Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tuts, and today we're going to continue our Omega series by going over the zones and regions in Omega. This is going to actually be really eye-opening. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. However, I must point out that it is a little different than some of the other themes. A lot of their themes have their own way of doing zones and regions, so it may not be totally like going into another theme, but Omega's zones and regions configuration is pretty powerful by itself. So we're going to click Appearance like we did last time. We're going to go into your theme, click Settings, and then we're going to click Zone and Region Configuration. And you'll notice here that there's some things. We have 3 sections. The sections are Header Section, Content Section, and Footer Section. If we inspect our code here, we can look at our HTML. You can see here where all those exactly are. Okay, here's our header section, our section content, and our section footer all the way down here at the bottom, which there's nothing in it. So if you look in each of these, let's open this div up, and you can see we have zone user wrapper, zone branding wrapper, zone menu wrapper, and zone header wrapper. Okay, and then so it looks like our navigation is within zone menu wrapper, our logo and brand are within the branding wrapper, and then the user wrapper goes above everything else. Okay, so this right here, you might expect these zones to mirror what's going on in here. Well, you'll see user zone, branding zone, menu zone, and header zone. Cool. So just like in content, we have preface, content postscript, and then footer, we just have the footer zone. And you'll notice here that we have all these zones, right? Under here we have unassigned zones. By default, there are no unassigned zones. I'm going to show you how to add a zone in just a second. And we do have some unassigned regions. However, you might not need to use them. I'll also show you how to add a region. Because you may need to add these. These may not be enough. They may not be sort of the right thing. You might want it to be a little bit more semantic with what it's actually going to be. But let's say we don't want this user zone at all. Let's turn this thing off. So we're going to click Configuration under User Zone, and I'm going to tell it Section None. Okay, save this, save configuration, and let's refresh our page here. And it's going to look the same except for inside of our header, we now just have branding, menu, and header wrapper. So branding, menu, and header now are the 3 things. We don't have anything in header yet. And inside, let's check out inside of our zone branding wrapper is our actual zone branding. So one of the things you're thinking is we can add new zones, we can add new regions, and we can turn them off and on. What about sections? Can we add or change sections? Well, the answer is no. They have it set up so that you only have your header, your content, and your footer. That's how it is. If you need to do things outside of that, they actually have made it really easy to do so. Sometimes you might want, let's say, a wrapper that extends the entire width of the page. By default, every single one of our zones here has a wrapper. So this is zone branding wrapper. And inside of that is our actual zone branding. So that is controlled by this configuration here. If we were to say configuration provide full width wrapper, if we were to turn that off, then we wouldn't have that full width wrapper. And if you don't need it, let's say you don't need to style to the edge of the page for this particular zone, then just check it off. It's one less div you have to have. And it's one of those things where Drupal and Omega adds a ton of divs for you. And I don't always like that many divs. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. Okay. And under here, under configuration, you'll also see some other options. Force zone to always be rendered. This is even if there's nothing in here, your zone's going to be rendered. Whatever styles you have attached to that zone, it's still going to be there. I usually don't have that checked because, I don't know, you know, it's the right project might have it. You need the zone to be rendered all the time. I can't imagine why I would for this. And customize region positioning. It allows you to manipulate the placing of the regions in the zone. I'm not going to worry about that right now. And so here we have what section it's in. It's in our header. Well, since this is the very top one, let's give this a weight of 0, or I mean, we don't have to change it because 2 right now is the highest, but just to keep track of things, Our weight is where it appears in this list, whether it's below or above menu or header. And then the column count, 16, 12, 24. Since our site is by default, it's going to be 16, or it's going to be 12 columns. This is going to be 12 columns. And the primary region, you can select a primary region for this zone. If we click here and expand our regions, you'll see that it only really has branding. We don't need to set this for this. Here you can give additional zone classes and additional wrapper classes if you'd like. So I would like this full width wrapper around it. I'm not going to change anything except for the width. And let's go into our regions. And regions, we have branding. Okay, so we want to force this region to always be rendered, is checked by default. And sure, I mean, this is the branding one in particular is probably already going to have stuff in it no matter what, because your branding information. But if you didn't want this to be rendered, you could uncheck this. And this, again, just like how we chose the section for the zone, this is choosing the zone for the region. Okay, so this might get a little confusing. There's layers and layers, right? But your regions are the most granular thing. Inside of regions is where blocks go. And inside of zones is where regions go, and inside of sections is where zones go. So it allows you a ton of control over where these blocks are. And this is our grid functionality right here for this particular region. If we wanted this region, and I'll show you about this in a second here on another one, we can prefix it as many columns as we'd like. We can have it be as many columns wide as we'd like. We can have the suffix be as many columns as we like, and we can have the weight be as high or low as we want here. And this weight is going to affect the media queries of this site, but we're going to go over that in the lesson where we talk about media queries. Okay, so let's check out another one of our zones, which actually have a few more regions inside of it. In fact, let's go to our site here. I'm going to close out of this. If we turn on these debugging blocks, what you're going to see here is you're going to see our regions themselves. So this is our region, and like we said before, the branding was taking up 12 columns. It was the first one, and it was the only thing in the branding zone. So then we have menu. And if you'll notice here in our header, we have a header first and a header second. Well, those are a little bit more interesting, right? I think this is taking up 6 columns each, and we can show you how to do that right now. If we come here to our header zone, under regions, you'll see we have 2 regions now. And just like before, we had one with a weight of 1 and 2, so this one's going to be higher. First in the line, this one's going to be second. And they're both 6 columns, and since our wrapper is 12 columns, they're going to take up the entire space here. So you could say, well, what happens if we add a prefix of 3 columns to this one? Well, what's going to happen is it's going to push the other one down. In fact, once we refresh this page, you'll see in a sec. Okay, let's check out our blocks. And now it's all out of whack, right? Our header first is pushed over by 3 columns, and it's right here, and therefore it forces our header second down here. And what these really are, this has a width and it's being floated, and this is just a margin on it. So these are just going to fill in just like floating elements like normal. So you don't have to worry about anything out of the ordinary happening. I mean, this is based on the 960 grid, so if you've used the 960 grid, it's probably going to be pretty familiar to you. And also, if we wanted to turn any of these regions off, it's just as dead simple as we showed you before when I turned off one of the zones. In fact, let's turn off this header second region. I'm going to turn this one off. I'm going to set the zone to none. And the header first, I'm going to have this still be 6 columns, but prefaced by 6 columns. And it's going to be pushed over halfway to the right, and the other one is not even going to appear at all. Okay, so here's our header first. We got nothing here, and if we don't need anything there, then this is great. Oh, I should also point out that real quick that if you look at this preface first, preface second, and preface third, when we go to less columns, when we go to our 1 column grid layout for our media queries, you'll notice they go in that same order, first, second, third. So that is also their weight, is going to change the order at which they stack on top of each other according to your media queries. Okay, one last thing. Let's show you how to add new zones and regions. So I'm going to go to my code here and okay, and if you remember before, we went into the .info file in our theme and added this script. And back when we were there, you saw these regions and zones and all this stuff, and you may not have known what it was. But now you do. And the easiest way to do this is just to show you here. So I'm going to add a new region, and it's just going to straight up, I'm going to call it regions, and it's menu 2. And this is a terrible name for this, but it's hard to think of something on the fly. Menu 2. Okay, so now we have a second menu region, and I'm going to add a new zone, and it's going to be, let's have a tagline, and this is going to be the tagline zone. So what you really just have to do is create a new one. In this, you're going to want it to be lowercase characters, underscores, no spaces, and this is just a string for what it's going to be called on the front end. And if we save this in here, all we have to do is clear our cache on our site here. I'm going to configuration, new tab. Oh, I already have it saved as a. I'm going to clear the cache, and then we're going to refresh. We're going to come back to our grid here, our zone settings, and our new regions will be there in the unused section. Scroll down. So now we have unassigned regions. Here's our menu 2, and here's our tagline zone. Let's add this to the header, and let's give it a big old weight so it can be at the bottom. And we'll save this. And now let's put our menu 2 inside of that zone, and we're going to have it show up. So you can even see the tagline zones already showing up here. Menu 2, we're going to put that inside of a tagline. It's going to be 10 columns wide for some reason, and we're going to save this. And let's check out our site. When we refresh, we're going to come to our debugging blocks. We'll click this, and you should see right here we have our menu 2. It's taking up 10 columns, leaving 2 blank there at the end, and it's coming in right where it should be. So this is perfect. Now if you go to your blocks, you can add blocks of content to menu 2 or anything you want here, any of these places, and it's going to show up exactly where you'd expect it to. Okay, well, this is how to add new regions and zones. This is how to take complete control of where your content's going and how it's going to work within Omega. As always, if you have any questions, leave a comment on the video or hit us up at Twitter, LevelUpTuts. Also, you know, I do these videos in my spare time, so if you feel like you want to donate something to Level Up Tuts, there is a donate button on our YouTube page. Over on the right, there's like links or something. Don't feel like you have to. The whole point of these is that they're free. But if you're feeling like you want to or whatever, go ahead. You know, that's always be accepted. If you have any questions, let me know. This is Scott Tolinsky with Level Up Tuts, and thanks for watching.